Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this episode of Galactic Download with IndigoAngel. Of course, you can find her work at IndigoAngel222.com. Let's give her a big warm welcome. Indigo, how are you today?
I'm doing well today, Jean-Claude. Thank you for asking, and I'm happy to be back. And yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing a little weird. I have to admit, it was a weird energy kind of weekend, and I didn't sleep at all last night. Usually I'm really good. I remember all my dreams, but last night I don't remember anything from last night other than I was kicking, screaming, yelling, I don't know, tossing and turning all night. And this morning I felt a little bit nauseous and I was like aggravated with every little thing. And I'm like, what the hell is this energy? It's not mine. I mean, nothing happened in my life for me to be all pissy today, but it's just a weird, like, bleh, yucky energy. I don't know what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting too, because yeah, I didn't sleep very good last night either. Like, I feel okay, I feel fine, but I'm just a little bit off. Just a little bit off. Like, I have like some heart palpitations going on or
Well, I
something.
had that Saturday evening, and a little bit Sunday morning. I had that too, and I'm like, well, I didn't drink that much coffee. What's going on? So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Different.
There's been an interesting collective shift, I
There's
feel.
probably something happening in the background. We just, with the news and mainstream media the way that it is, we might never know. Sometimes when things are going on. Oh, well, wait a second here. Let me bring this up. I was just looking at this. Look at the human resonance. So that's a really
Yeah,
interesting spot here. So that
that
was,
would explain it.
hmm yeah, there's definitely something affecting us. I was talking to a remote viewer, Dick Algeier, a couple months about this too, and they saw him and his team. They saw correlation between some of the weird readings they were getting, or difficulty they were having, or anxiety they were having, in correlation with some of this human resonance reporting. So there is something to it for sure. So yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely related.
yeah.
I always feel like when it's happening in the winter months, sorry about that. When it's happening in the winter months, the ascension symptoms are stranger. Because it's like we're having so much more magnetic energy. We're being pulled so much, closer and atomically, quantumly to the galactic center that it just really accelerates the ascension symptoms. And I feel like it's almost like you get cold sweats and you get
Yeah.
like just strange, just reactions to it overall.
Well, yeah, there's that, and there's also the what I would call the matrix people, or maybe the disembodied, I don't know, soulless type of vehicles that are walking around. Or you and I called them non-player characters the other day. I went to the post office this morning, and I'm trying to send my friend Dick Algeier, remote viewers, a bottle of Canadian maple rye from Crown Royal. It's a special edition bottle of rye or whiskey, I guess you guys call it. And anyways, they turned me away. They said, "No, sir, you can't ship alcohol to Hawaii." I'm like, "Well, why not?" "Well, you have to be an authorized distributor." I'm like, "Well, how does Hawaii get their alcohol? I mean, for fuck's sakes, it's one bottle." And they're like, "Oh yeah, but that's a dangerous material, sir." Yeah, but you're not. It's going to be in the cargo plane. It's in a box inside a plastic container, inside another plastic Ziploc, in case it leaks. Like, it's not going to leak. And even if it explodes, it's a small bottle inside. I put it in one of those monster boxes of Royal Canadian Mint. So it's like a hard. You could drive your car over this box and it won't break, basically. So, anyways. I did my work, but anyways, the lady behind the corner is like, "Nope, nope, sir. These are the rules. These are." I'm like, "Come on, man. Fuck, use your head." If I had told you it was a bottle of maple syrup, she would have sent it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, here I am telling the truth, and I'm getting, messed
Yeah.
around with these matrix characters of control, and
Well, I just think it's
I
interesting that
lost
they
it.
stop international travel and all of this stuff because of coronavirus, but yet we can still purchase things from China and all of our online shipping is still it's in full go. You know what I mean? Like, it's double standard.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I got a funny joke up here. I got to read it. I almost cracked up, and I want to say thank you to the person because it changed my mood a little bit. Where did it just go? Where is it? Where'd it go? Oh, J Crypto Minded. He says, I'm hoping for the swimsuit edition today in the show. So
Oh my
that was
gosh.
funny. Of course, he's relating to the movie poster here that we have. But then Polly P says, oh, JC and Speedo is only on the Patreon portion.
I know, we need to get a picture of you. That's what we need to do. Everyone who's watching, comment if you want to see JC doing a crazy picture of himself in a Speedo or something spiritually feminine.
I should do the Borat thing there because a lot of people said I resembled that guy a couple of years ago when the first movie came out, or he resembled me in some way or something. So I could do that yellow banana hammock, whatever poster, the mockery that he did. Anyways, that would be funny.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Borat's
hilarious. But no, that's not going to happen. So thank you guys. That's funny as hell. All right, let me see here. Hi, beautiful souls. Hello. John says,
Hello.
yeah. JC, me too. Sleeping was off. Mom told me she couldn't sleep till 3:30. Yeah, something's weird. Something weird in the energy.
Yeah, my auntie told me that today too.
Oh yeah. Inspired says, I feel like my atoms are buzzing. Yeah, like that was me yesterday. It felt like I was sitting on the live wire all day, just kind of, I don't know, vibrating weird. I don't know.
Yeah, and a little bit of nausea too. There's just a little bit of nausea. I don't know.
Yeah. My friend Stephen Cavian here is in the house. He says, another hot psychic chick? He says, come on, man. He says, I have the monopoly on crazy hot psychic chicks. So, yeah. Stephen, you're late to the game, man. What do you got to do?
There's a whole underground group of us.
Yeah, they're everywhere, Stephen. You just got to look, man. Come on, what are you talking about? He says, I'm huddling all the hot psychic crazy chicks, and he wants to make an official complaint to the Canadian government here on behalf of other fellow YouTubers, I guess. So Steve, man, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I was going to send you, I bought 2 of these goddamn bottles of maple whiskey from Crown Royal. One was coming your way, by the way, as well. And of course, Canada Post doesn't want me to ship them for some reason to the States right now. Heightened security or dangerous materials. Anyways, I was a little bit frustrated with that, so I'll find some other way, or maybe Stephen, I'll send you some maple syrup instead, and we'll call it that. Anyways, we'll see how that goes. All right, enough chit chat here. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Today we have an amazing discussion with Indigo here. She's given me quite a bit of background material for us to go through today. We're going to get into Stargates. And that's a fascinating subject to me. And it's funny, just at the dinner, I had a dinner with friends Saturday night, and one of the person was asking me, hey, GC, have you ever watched Stargate Atlantis? I'm like, no. I said, I watched Stargate SG-1 whenever that was, in late 90s or early 2000, but I don't remember Atlantis. And he's like, oh, you got to watch it, blah, 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 blah. And here I am today doing a show on Stargate. So I'm excited to get into this. I've always been fascinated by this as a kid too. So where do you want to start, Indigo? Like, you sent me a ton of material here. Is there anything you want me to pull up to begin with? And
yeah, we have a lot to get through, I'd say. I kind of thought it would be fun to describe, what are the differences in Stargates? Because there's a lot of different anatomy in terms of grid keeping and gatekeeping in the Earth's grid. So I think it would be good to kind of go over, like, what is a solar stargate? What is a lunar stargate? What is an altitude portal? What is, the axial tonal lines, the ley lines, which are actually called song lines, or dream tracks. And these are actual measurable rivers of magnetism in the Earth's grid. So, like, when you astral travel, or you're sleeping, or when you die, these are actual, magnetic streams that the soul is called to basically, follow the structures of the grids, follow into the gates, whatever your designed route is for dematerialization, essentially. And so, yeah, I think it would be good to kind of fundamentally get into just the descriptions of these things, because I know we've talked a lot on your channel about things, but I kind of feel like I'm briefly running around rabbit holes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really kind of diving into just the different types of vortexes, the different types of portals, because they're all kind of working with different types of alchemical compounds, geometric structures, astrological alignments. There are differentiations in the radiation templates in each stargate. So the solar stargates themselves run off of radiation identity sequences. And some of these things are going off liquids and gases and electromagnetic energy. And basically, it's just all about fractal fields at the end of the day. But each one of these are different types of systems that are working with different aspects. And so I believe I did mention in the last update that we did, we kind of briefly talked about the altitude portals. I had John Shaughnessy on my channel. He's the one that's kind of been talking about this stuff the most. I don't know if you've talked to John Shaughnessy. He's written a couple books.
Not yet, no.
One of them is there's something about the moon, and I can't remember the name of his other book. But essentially, yeah, he's kind of the one that's been bringing this stuff up. But it's basically where the planes are getting removed out of altitude. And they kind of go in these suspended time capsules and time vectors. And it has mostly to do with the magnetic, gravitational, astrological alignments with the moon. So the new moons and the quarter moons. So there's actually a visual that I sent you. It is the MP4 for the Berry Center. And I have showed this, I think, on my most recent update on my channel.
Okay, let me get to that. And before I jump into that one, I just want to share with the audience here on your YouTube channel, IndigoAngel, and folks, you can go please and support our friend Indigo here and subscribe to her channel. The video she's talking about with the interview here is this one, right?
Yes, with John Shaughnessy.
Like in wormholes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very good. So let me just bring down the link to that here as well so people can click on it and go subscribe to you here. So there's quite a lot of information there. All right. Okay, so which one of the videos do you want me to put out first?
There is one that says the Berry Center.
Okay, let me do sub-screen here. Okay. I have that up, folks. Give me a moment here. Berry Center conjunction. Okay.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind. I like kind of just sending everything to you and having you do it.
Yeah, no, it's better also because when I'm streaming it, I'm streaming now in 1080p on this platform. So it's a little bit higher res if I run it directly from my computer as opposed to having you share screen running through your internet connection and all that. So the viewers will get a little bit of a higher resolution if we do it this way. Okay,
yeah, so this is kind of a custom design. I had one of my really good friends. His name is B.Art. He's also on YouTube as well. He's a graphic designer, but essentially he kind of put this together for me, and you can go ahead and play it. It's just showing the Berry Center, which is where the altitude portals. So what's happening is the planes are going up. There is a planetary alignment. The most major one that's coming up is December 21st, 2020, where we have Jupiter and Saturn conjunction at Cygnus at 29 degrees. That will be majorly pulling on the Berry Center of the sun. So the theory is that you wouldn't want to fly at this time because these are altitude portals, which means they could pull planes out of altitude. And the theory is also that this could also happen if you are, just walking at a very heightened vortex energetic center on the Earth or near a Stargate as well. But I think these types of planes being missing are just more mysterious. They're more elusive. There's more suspension in terms of how long you would be suspended in time. And so this is just one of the ways. And did you go ahead and play that?
No, I was just waiting for you to give me the key.
Yeah, go ahead and play it.
Okay, do you want me to run it full screen or just like this is fine and we can comment?
Yeah, just like that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there sound to this? No, eh?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, there you go.
But yeah, this is just simply showing the tugging of the Berry Center. So when you have these major planetary alignments, it's going to show it here like it's pulling. When that aligns, it pulls. But what's going to happen is Jupiter and Saturn will align on December 21st, 2020, like right there, boom. That's going to pull on that Berry Center, and it's basically the gravitational rotation of the sun. And so these are just catalyst type things that could propagate, like the solar flash or events that would be kind of extreme like that, that would, cause things to happen on Earth, like collective reality fields to move and things like that, where we're seeing like major collective shifts and things. And so that's just kind of one example of what an altitude portal would kind of look like.
That's really cool. I wanted to ask you, as we're watching this animation, it reminds me of I forget who it was a couple of years ago who produced an animation similar to this, where there was this specific alignment in our solar system, and we're talking thousands and thousands of years ago, that would have created, based out of a solar alignment, some type of electric arc or electric shock that basically carved the huge gash that we see on the planet Mars. And so as I'm looking at this too, I'm reminded of that yeah, when these planets align in a certain way, there is some effect there that's happening, not just on the planets in terms of the electric universe we live in, but also for us humans. And it's funny because I think it was Serbian Mike in the chat earlier. He was talking about that conjunction for December 21st, and I do have that picture in front of me here, so I can show the audience. Let me bring that one down, and then share this one here. Yeah, did you want to comment on that a little bit more in terms of disalignment here for
yeah, the main things that I was kind of reading into is the Cygnusian alignment. That's pretty major to me. Cygnus is one of the most like fundamentally important constellations. It's considered the cosmic egg or the cosmic womb. And I was kind of talking about this on some of my most recent updates, is that even the pharaohs, like Cygnus goes back to Egypt, it goes back to Göbekli Tepe, it goes back to the Denisovans. Like if you get into Andrew Collins' work, The Cygnus Key, which is an amazing documentary that I don't even think it's a documentary, I think it's like a lecture. But if you watch that, it really gets into how Cygnus mythology, cosmology goes back to like autistic indigo Neanderthal. Like it's just so deep, and Cygnus holds all of the indigo records on Earth. So it could really be a magical alignment, or it could, like I said, it could be a black swan event, and it could be something like an unexpected, unforeseen thing that happens. So, yeah, that's just kind of my predictions with this particular alignment for this year.
Okay, and John here has a question. What are my chances of getting getting locked in a portal? Lifted? I don't understand his question.
He's taking a flight on the 20th morning. He doesn't want to hit a portal. Just make sure it's not a new moon or a new quarter moon. So check the moon alignment, because I think that's what's mostly pulling the planes out of the altitude. This event is very rare, and I think you won't be close enough. Well, he's taking it on the... Well, I don't know. He's taking it a day before the 21st.
It's close. Yeah, it's close.
It is close.
And somebody says, Alexander here, Petrov, he says, not quite accurate. No, it's a little animation we put together to give you the example, equally representative of what.
Yeah, the animation's definitely not. It's not perfect. Yeah,
it's for discussion. Understand and have at least a visual idea of what we're talking about here, because a lot of these concepts, sometimes I feel that when Indigo and I are just talking about it at light speed, people are like, what? Wait, slow down. What are you talking about? Show me something. So Indigo's put a lot of work here, putting pen to paper and animations together for us here to continue to have these conversations. So I really want to thank you, Indigo, for all that work, because I can see all the research and the time you put into all of this. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so going back to...
anatomy of vortexes.
Sure, let's do... Okay.
So the altitude theory is definitely a more extended theory. Like it's definitely takes a lot more imagination and kind of more just expanded mind consciousness to kind of calculate how all that could be possible, right? But we do have more like fundamental portals, more fundamental planetary vortexes, and that's solar stargates. And keep in mind, like all of the stargates and all of the planetary vortexes, they also parallel and they also are simultaneous to biological human anatomy. So this is why people feel Stargate portals opening in their body, like when they're going through ascension, when they're going through activations, when they're attuning to their star seed origin, and they feel that these Stargate portals open up. It's because it's coming through all three levels of their light body. It's coming through the fundamental level, which is the universal tree of life, which is sets of a geometric grid that sets within the body in sets of 12 spheres. And so it's basically pumping through vortexes in the body, such as your organs, but mainly your heart. Your heart is the main access to the Stargate portal, but also the glands, your pineal, your lunar endocrine sensory cells, what I like to call it. The heart becomes the portal that basically bridges planetary telepathy and Stargate passages that are attuned to these astrological alignments and to these stellar cycles that have been happening throughout history, because they're constantly opening and closing at certain, points when we come into, new, I guess, like precession cycles and things like this. I couldn't think of the word.
Right.
But yeah, this comes through also, these portals come through smaller gateways in the body as well. And these are also the soft spots in the body. So like your temples, they're called meiotic and deodotic points in Galantic sciences by Asha and Adine. But I think you also pointed on some of this with some of the Taoism stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That you have these
in Taoism,
smaller...
they call the main one the microcosmic orbit, and in there that breaks down in different, basically vortices or vortex points of energy within the body, and use either techniques of yoga type activities to change the body antenna, or they'll use pressure point techniques also to either open the flow of the energies in these gates that are closed, and in their mindset. When these energy gates are closed or blocked, it's what creates dis-ease in the body. So that's a Taoist perspective. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like as we go galactic is equivalent to quantum energy in the body. So it's all about like feeling differentiations and radiation templates. And so we experience these openings of Stargate portals in the body, but so this is happening biologically, but then it's also happening planetarily in the grids, basically at sacred locations, like in the landmass is where these vortexes truly reside, like these solar planetary stargates. And so solar stargates in particularly, these are dimensionalized in sets of 12. That's why they are cohesive with the universal tree of life. And they also, through their expression, they come and they attune through the 6 universal star nations, but then they also attune through all of the several occult Stargate nations as well. So you'll have people saying things like, well, this planetary Stargate, like the 4th planetary Stargate, Giza, Egypt, like this is an Orion Stargate. Well, no, in fact, this Stargate fluctuates multiple different radiation templates, which would be Lyran, Sirius, Draco, Hydra. And you can see it fundamentally through all of the aspects of the Egyptian pantheon and the mythology and everything, because they're expressing this through their worship and through their beliefs of eternal life and incarnation. So you can kind of see how each one of those reality fields that attune to the Stargate consciousness is expressed through the people. And so, yeah, it's primarily, and that's they're also according to helium spectrum as well. So I did a video on this on my channel. It was I called it the Black Diamond Sun Helium Spectrum video. It was like when I was in Egypt. Yeah. And so I was kind of going into how it's not just radiation sequences, it's also helium spectrum as well, because as we ascend, we're tuning to different higher solar codes. And so one way that's expressed is through helium spectrum. So that's also on a light frequency spectrum as well, a different color radiation. And so, yeah, and this just alters your perception in ascension, essentially. And this connects us into multiple other dimensions, multiple reality fields, multiple fractal fields. And it pertains mostly to running grid mechanics of creation. And it mostly deals with collective running reality fields. And an example of that is if you created like 12 reality fields, and this is something that I do all the time because I'm like constantly getting messages and picking up on things. I literally create like poster boards of 12 dimensions, and I sit and I attune into which radiation I'm picking up to that energy signature, and I'm connecting it to which dimension it's calling to me. So it's like if you created like a poster board with 12 dimensions on it, and you kind of begin to define those dimensions by these fields, you would see how the Atlantean-Aryan grids, the control overlay systems, the governmental systems, biblical systems, and all of the starseed nations' cosmology and their contribution would start to take form in these different 12 running collective reality fields. And so that's kind of how I tune into it in terms of how I'm picking up on which nation and how I'm like making predictions and how I'm starting to perceive the collective fields.
Right. You and I got into in the last episode some of these maps that you've been putting together here, where the countries have the eagle symbol, and you collected quite a bit of data there. Now, does that pertain to some of the maps you've sent me today? Do you want to get into that now? And what is first of all, actually, while I have your YouTube channel on, the video you just mentioned now, the Black Diamond, did I pass through it, or is that the title of it, or is that a different title? Trying to see where it was.
Where is it? Try scrolling up some more.
I typed in Egypt here.
Just maybe go to my videos.
Videos?
Yeah.
Hey, how come I can't get back there?
You gotta go to the arrow, like next to playlist. There's like a little arrow going back.
There you go. I'll scroll down. Okay.
Down. Keep scrolling. Just keep scrolling. Just keep swimming.
Yeah, you were in Egypt a few months ago already, and then it goes fast, eh?
I know. Oh, wait.
We started here, Egypt, so it has to be after that.
Okay, go up.
Yeah.
We passed it.
October.
Where is it? Oh, right there. Cosmic energy update, black diamond, sun, and helium spectrum. So yeah, I was really feeling it then when I recorded that. So if you can kind of sit through me, because I know my material can be kind of dense because it's so heavy, because I just put so much into it, because I really try to speak on a quantum level, because I feel like that's what really I've been guided to do by the Lyrans ultimately, because they are my guides, and also because it expands consciousness. So even if you don't understand everything that I'm saying, it's resonating somewhere on a subconscious level. So it's, it's expanding those fractal fields, and it's expanding consciousness so you can embody more higher light intelligence.
Well, the other thing you're talking here too about, we talked about these vortex points inside the energy, or these stargates points inside the body, and this is just some of the graphics the Taoists adhere to. This one here talks about basically what you're saying here. Inside the body, we have the quantum representation of all of the universe, and that's what that picture represents there. And these texts are thousands of years old, and it was way before satellites and all the stuff that we have today. And to me, when I read a lot of this, it's just fascinating how we're kind of just now catching up to that. And there's a lot of humans like you who are doing the work and who are tuned into these different frequencies, but are also who are just starting to naturally remember. Like, you don't necessarily know where the information is coming from. You're just getting that deep knowing. And so I find these conversations really fascinating. And I hope that as you and I progress with these video series, like you say, some of the material is hard to get through for some, but just, we're asking the audience to bear with us here and follow us here, because some of the words and the concepts that we're bringing forward might trigger you into remembering your own connections to maybe your starseed origins. And that's when maybe a lot of the magic will happen for you. So yeah, stay on the ride with us. We're gonna have some fun here, and Indigo and I have mapped out quite a few episodes in front of us here to share this information with you in a more kind of succinct but also structured manner, just because we were doing a couple of videos, but we were ad hoc talking about a lot of topics, and people was like, okay, where's this going? So we're going to try to map it out a little bit better for you guys, and at the same time we're learning how to map this information to be able to share it.
It's been a process for me too, because I mean, I expanded so much in consciousness that even when I first started speaking to Jean-Claude, like I almost didn't even know how to wrap some of my concepts into a conversation that even made sense sometimes, because I was just like, do you remember when you first started talking to me? Like I was just all over the place. And so it's taken a lot of work to kind of bring it in and narrow it in and like put it in like a linear format, and like understanding where I need to explain things to kind of help people to follow along.
And that's why I'm excited now that you and I have just agreed to do this series and to stick to at least a map. Like we can diverge, we'll answer questions and comments as we go, but we really want to follow a certain trajectory that makes sense to us in how to basically unveil some of this information. Because in some cases, you're repeating old information, whether that's 2,000-year-old Taoist, or sometimes maybe the Voice of the Book series. There's parts and parcel of your knowledge that comes from the Ashiana Dean material. And in a lot of cases,
currently I'm reading Sitchin.
Really?
I got all of Sitchin's books, so I'm diving in. I gotta upgrade in there.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you decode and all of that, because there is some controversy as to whether or not a lot of his writings are accurate, or whether it was kind of co-opted maybe by the cabal here to change some of the narrative. And I understand that in that material, there's a lot of base information that is pretty much correct and on point, but at the critical moments there might be some narrative switches there. So I'm going to be looking forward to conversations with you to see if you saw those, reading them, and if you intuitively figured out that maybe there was a little bit of misleading how do I say it, attempts in some of that material. So stay tuned for that, folks. We'll eventually get to this conversation as well.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah. So, all right. Where do you want to go from here? I've got.
You can definitely, if you'd like to pull up the Stargate map.
Okay. Let's see here. That was not the Lunar Gates, but the Stargate Gates ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Here. Okay. Because we're still kind of talking about solar Stargates.
Okay.
And then zoom out if you can.
Okay. Let me just get back into this window here. You guys can see that. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, that's so crazy. Zoom back in just a little bit. And then there should be a little hand up in the corner where you can kind of, there you go. Okay, so if you could, well, I don't have it charted, but if you could kind of imagine like a horizontal line that goes across the 30-degree north that would run through about 7 different Stargate portals. There are a lot of Stargates on that 30-degree north horizontal ley line.
Is there a way for me? Is there a way for me to add lines to this diagram?
I wonder if you can chart on it, because if you can, go for it.
Although this is your document, I don't know.
Try zooming out.
Yeah.
Because there should be tools at the top.
I don't
think I gave you the version of it that you could alter it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
But essentially what I wanted to talk about was the architecture of solar geometry. So this map here is just an example of Stargate locations. So I have a lot of different things charted on this map, honestly. The bullseye looking ones, those are sacred sites. The ones that have stars are solar Stargates. I have the Polynesian Triangle charted over there. That's what that pink triangle is here. This is the Polynesian Triangle. This is a highly vortexual energy vortex on the planet that I have picked up that communicates directly with Laniakea. So this takes us way out of our universal system into the local cluster, the local group outside of the Virgo cluster. This basically we're transmitting to the entire, the entire galaxy. through these energy centers. And in between the tectonic plates here, this is where, I feel this truly is the birthplace on the earth where everything has kind of birthed in terms of existence. But I also have a lot of other theories as well. But yeah, so this is just kind of an example of what like stargates, where they would be located and what they look like on the planet.
Okay.
And so all of the solar stargates, these actually are encoded by geometric code. So how this works is the geometry is encoded at the stargate signets in the landmass memory. And so it's like there's geometry that's surrounding each one of these stargates, and it kind of expands out into the landmass. And this is really, really important. And I actually took note of this in Giza, Egypt. So if you want to zoom into the one in Giza, Egypt, this is the 4th planetary stargate. This particular stargate, yep, in Giza.
Mm-hmm.
This one is this is octagonally encoded. And how I came to recognize that is if you go to the stargate location and you look through the city, what you do is you kind of look at the architecture around you. And what was all over the city of Heliopolis, which is the city of the sun, is they had the octagonal star, like all over their infrastructure. And it's interesting because even if you look at the pyramids, the geometry of the pyramids is a 4 square divided by the square root of the golden ratio. And if you look down on the pyramids from a star pyramidal viewpoint, it's actually octagonal. So it's interesting. The people will instinctually build their architecture according to the geometry that's flowing from these stargate signets, these stargate portals.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to bring up the picture here of the 8-sided pyramid because a lot of people don't know that. I think it was in the 50s or the 60s that this pilot flew over at a certain time of the day, and the sun hit it just right for him to realize that this pyramid actually was 8-sided and not 4-sided. So I'll see if I can bring up that picture while we're talking here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like in India, they have mostly like a lot of their architectures like fractal like structures. They have a lot of fractal architecture. And I think that's interesting because India is running mostly off Hydra stargates. The Lunar Stargate in India is Hydra, and also their national animal is a cobra. So they're highly Hydarian encoded. And so the geometrics, I think, there are expanded to more of the golden ratio where they're having 5-10 geometry. So this all kind of goes into like the works of Plato, because the Platonic solids, and then also Dan Winters. If anyone follows Dan Winters, he's absolutely incredible. He's done so much extensive work on the science behind biological geometric architecture. I mean, it's incredible. Because what he kind of goes into talking about is how the buildings and the architecture themselves is what causes the electrical field. And the geometry itself is actually scalar wave mechanics, which is living light energy. That's why when I do visualizations, I actually induct sacred geometry into the body. And I'm going to have you bring up a picture here to kind of show some of this here in a second. But because it's living light energy, it's encoded in that geometry that your DNA literally attunes to it. And so you accelerate your DNA radio receivers, and you have activations in between the strands of your DNAs because you're attuning to those fire codes that are inside of the geometry. And so it's all according to harmonious design at these Stargate signets. And so
Let me go back to the main map here for the audience. Yeah.
Yes.
And what I was noticing too, a lot of these lines and these connections, and again, it's fascinating because you're doing this research, a lot of it intuitively. But there's this fellow, Florida Maki, and I've mentioned him to you before,
Yeah.
who getting to a lot of ruins around the planet that show basically the remnants of these pentagon structures that are all attached in this grid formation. A lot of it goes through these major portal sites, Stargate sites, whether that's in Antarctica and and again, on this particular line that you were drawing earlier, the 33rd parallel.
Yeah, I actually went and watched the video that you're talking about because I'm like, what is he trying to tell me? So I went and watched it. And yeah, so Florida Marquis draws a line from like one pentagram to another, and it was transversing through like the sacred sites of Atlantis and the pillars of Hercules. And I was wondering if even if some of his lines would go through the Eye and the Sahara and the Mauritania. Did I have that charted on there? I think I did. If you kind of zoom into Mauritania, it should be on the left of Egypt, but it's the Eye of the Sahara, and it's supposed to be an Atlantis formation. Yeah, if you zoom.
How far in do I have to go?
Kind of go to Mauritania, and there's like one little purple pin.
Where is it? Oh, this one here?
Yes.
There you go. I was caught behind that little square box there. There you go.
But even if you keep zooming in, you'll be able to see it. It'll show.
Right. Where'd you go?
I need to start charting on Google Maps, to be honest with you.
Yeah, or Google Earth Pro, and then you can share with the audience that KMZ file, and people can go look in and point at every address that you pop in there, and people can add notes, and we could kind of do like a group share thing if we did that. That could be fun. Okay, so let me try to zoom back in here. Exactly.
Yeah, but you can see how it's like a circular area.
Yeah. There you go.
So, and if you look at pictures of Atlantis, it's the same architecture. The city is designed in a circular, like, flat, expression.
There seems to be 4 entrances here as well. Well, at least I see 3. There might be another one here hidden, but yeah, that's fascinating. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is fascinating.
Very interesting. Yeah, well, we'll have to get Florida Marquis on at some point, and maybe we can compare notes. But I love the idea if you wanted to maybe move this over to Google Earth Pro, and then we can share with the audience the KMZ file. We can get more people, more eyeballs onto this research and contribute to the endeavor here. That would be fun.
So I just kind of wanted to tell, yeah, I would love to do that, by the way.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you, so on that 30-degree north ley line that I don't have a line for, so we're all just visualizing this here, just kind of run it through Giza and just know that that line goes all the way across. There's 7 primary stargates on that. There's so this is like fundamental. It's the most important horizontal ley line on the planet. You have Sarasota, Florida. You have the Bermuda Triangle, which is considered the Atlantis Stargate that runs, which I think probably somehow runs through that eye of the Sahara of Mauritania. Even runs probably close through those Hercules canals that Florida Marquis was talking about. Mm-hmm. And then it runs through Giza, Egypt. It runs through Abydos, Iran, which is considered a Lyran Stargate. It goes through Tibet, which is considered Andromedan Stargate. And then it also goes through Zion, China, through the Zion pyramids. So it's just lit up. So whenever we're having any type of planetary activation, also the Anunnaki or the Anunnaki Stargate, that's considered the Temple Mount in Jerusalem.
Fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there.
Absolutely. Wow. Cool. All right. How much time we have? So we're about 45 minutes in. Okay, we still have quite a bit of time here to go through the material. And I think what I want to do to thank our Patreon supporters here is to do a specific show on some of the research you've uncovered that basically, how would I say this? Bring the idea of the different blood types and their connections to different star systems. And I think that's going to be a fascinating conversation. So folks, we're going to have that on Patreon after this show. If you want to join us for that, you can do so at patreon.com/BeyondMystic. And there you're looking for the insider access pass. But in the meantime, please do like, share, and subscribe here to Beyond Mystic and also to IndigoAngel on YouTube. So let's keep going here with this research and go.
Okay, so I think let's just kind of switch to lunar stargates because this is a different perspective. Okay. Just keep in mind the solar stargates, I feel fundamentally are what are supporting on a quantum galactic level the collective running reality fields. Now, I think lunar stargates contribute in a different way. And we kind of briefly spoke about this before on the last show. I think it was on the Patreon. We were pulling up some of the locations. So yeah, the stargates are not only solar or helium powered, they're also magnetically vortexual. The lunar stargates are often like rolling and they're rhythmic in expression. They carry more of an emotional resonance to the star systems they generate from. And these are all aquatic, oceanic stargates. And these are the locations on the Earth that are the most powerful, highest tides on the Earth. So they use 2/3 lunar energy, 1/3 solar energy. And it's the gravitational pull thrust of the Earth coming in and out with that relationship, with the synergy with the moon. And it creates that bulge and that gravitational pull. And it's creating the effect of the tide coming in and out. So this is most exalted on the new and full moon. I have this theory that, souls are seeding the earth on the new moon. They're dematerializing, exiting, leaving, transiting at the full moon. And it's the lunar stargates, I feel, have more to do with soul seedings and incarnations. I think that solar stargates are also contributing to this, but I think that they have more to do with the running collective reality fields. So the moon, I feel, has more to do with the seeding of the soul identity into the race morphogenetic field of the planet.
Would you go as far as to say that the moon also has maybe the role, or bigger role, if not the only role, in terms of the karmic loops and maybe your life review, and then having access to your Akashic record, and then being dumped back into Earth to go through some of these future learning, I guess, sessions for your soul? Would you say that? Am I pulling a little bit too far?
Possibly. I mean, there is this Saturn moon matrix. Some people have talked about the Saturn moon matrix, and it's the moon's connection to Kronos and to Saturn, which is like the god of time.
Right.
And so, I mean, it might have something to do with it in terms of that, or even in another way that I'm not able to see at this time, but possibly.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Aurora, who was on my show, we did do 1 or 2 episodes on basically exactly that, the moon matrix, and how it was a repeater station for Saturn. And Gosha from Cosmic Agencies, who's channeling Pleiadian messages, is also talking about some of that information. So it's entering is human consciousness at this time, that there's a connection there with the moon. So I'm very fascinated by some of these lunar gates here, and to see how maybe some of your research has uncovered either past events or current events that would lend to tell us that there's something more happening there with the moon than with the sun.
And I'm still honestly getting downloads about the lunar gates. Like, I did not receive this information until I got back from Egypt. It was like I got back from Egypt, and then it was just like, boom, lunar gates. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting downloaded. So I just started charting. I started searching and researching, and actually had a lady reach out to me who was like, yeah, she's like, you are onto something. She said there's a native tribe, the Makmakis, I believe, in it's at one of the lunar Stargate locations, but she says that there's actual like crystal caverns down in these tides, and deep salt deposits, and the natives have just been instinctually protecting these tides. And so she thinks that there's definitely something, there's really something about this. And even if you start like looking into creation and just evolution, that the tides have birthed all invertebrates. So like if you look at creation mythology, how we have the serpent as, as like the fundamental piece of all creation stories throughout history. Well, snakes are invertebrates. So, I mean, they were probably birthed through these tide pool locations. So when we start really getting into like the evolution of quantum theory and all of this stuff, that it definitely starts to make you really look at these things.
Wow, fascinating. Hey, before we dive too much more into the lunar gates here, I wanted to bring up this question from Sound, and it was in relation to the solar gates. It says, he or she. Does Indigo Angel get anything about Salisbury Hill in England? In Denmark, Sol means sun. So I was wondering, because I was looking at your map earlier, and it does seem to be going in that general vicinity as well here when you're going through Europe.
I don't have anything charted for that location.
Okay. Okay. I'm just bringing up this picture if anybody resonates with that here.
Definitely Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Stonehenge, I feel, in terms of geometry, is operating off of the golden ratio. And that there's another place too that has like a rose figure. I can't remember where it was. It might be in the UK.
Rose figure.
I'm trying to think. Prague.
Oh, Prague. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So because of when they have geometry like that, it's creating fractal fields. It's creating fractal growth. So I think ancient people just intuitively knew that if you built architecture according to the landmass geometry, that you just have healthier people because there's more harmony. All of the waves converge. This switches on the DNA. This turns the DNA radio on, and it creates a perfect distribution of energy so that people can be coherent and abundant and happy and experience bliss and magic and spiritual enlightenment. And so I really feel that's kind of what Stonehenge was all about.
Interesting. I've got a super chat here to acknowledge a Viking as above, so below. Says, as we surrender the left side, as we surrender the left side of the brain, okay, not if, of the brain as an operating platform, negotiating from the heart, monad opens a portal to your clairvoyant properties as the brain then becomes a quantum binary system. Yeah. I agree.
I agree as well.
I agree with that. That's really well said. And bear with me, I'm having trouble reading English today. Like I'm telling you, I didn't sleep all night, so I'm kind of like I'm a little bit groggy. My universal translator is it's on slow speed today. All right, let's move on. Are we still on some of these lunar gates?
Yeah, we can be. There's actually one more video. Okay. That's not perfect, guys. It's just, right. Yeah.
No, and I want to thank you for at least trying to put something visual together. It does help situate the audience here and give an example, at least, of what we're talking about, as opposed to just doing all this verbal salad here with some of these very complex themes. Source frequency. Frequency is the secret of everything. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, let me see here.
It's lunar seedings. It's
okay, I think
what it's called.
I'll remove this one here, and then subscreen, and then share screen, and then lunar seeding departure. That one.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is kind of my theory of how the lunar stargates are working.
Okay. Let's see here. I'll bring this one out of the way here, and I'll take this one out of the way as well, so we'll see a little bit better here. Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and play this?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So all those touch points that you see, those are where the high tides are actually on the globe. And so as the moon comes around, it's seeding, it's particularly like you've seen at the new moon, it was seeding, and it comes around, and that there may be this collective departure of souls as they exit through the moon, that it's acting as a vehicle for spirit. And so as it goes around, that the moon's gravitational force with all of the celestial bodies as well is embodying into the moon to seed them into the locations of the high tides and the low tides.
Okay. Run that by me again. You lost me. I was trying to remove all the distraction from the screens here, and you completely lost me. So try to say that one more time. It could be me. I'm just tired.
It's okay.
Okay, let me look at the graph here, though.
Okay, so you see these touch points here? Like these blue touch points where the arrow is pointing?
Let me go back right here.
Yes, so these touch points here, those are the locations of the high tides and the low tides, right? I have this theory that as the gravitational relationship with the celestial bodies and the moon, and also with the sun, that the moon is acting like a vehicle for these soul collectives to seed into the earth. And so on the new moon, that there may be the greatest seeding or the biggest seeding, and then as it comes around, it's collecting soul identity from all of the celestial bodies and seeding into the high and the low tides. And that as it comes around to the full moon, that there may be some sort of collective departure, because on full moons, what are we doing? We're worshiping, we're having ritual for harvest. You know, it's honestly, it's about, you know, there's a lot of, you know, worshiping the dead and things like that on full moons as well. So it's kind of like, it's symbolic to how we are just intuitively perceiving things. And so so I feel the moon is fundamentally, in terms of the differences between solar stargates and lunar stargates, is that the moon is actually seeding the soul collective identities into the race morphogenetic field of the planet.
Okay, now I understand what I think you're saying. And for the sake of the audience, when you say seeding, what does that entail?
Seeding is like birthing. It's manifesting. It's coming into creation.
What are you talking about? Souls dropping into embryos in wombs?
Yes, because the moon is tied into the fertility cycles, the menstruation cycles every 28 days. This comes in through the iron, and I feel that the soul comes in through the iron and the nickel in the blood, and through the umbilical cord, through the mother, that our cycles are so deeply interconnected with the moon cycles that it would only make sense that the moon would be the vehicle of this greater spiritual body coming into the earth, because it's literally controlling our reproduction cycles.
The moon controlling our reproduction cycles is also talked about quite heavily in some of the material on my channel, and also from the Pleiadians. That's quite fascinating you just said that. That's fascinating. It's not just as much energetically, but apparently from a different program or matrix too, that's really making us basically. I'm going to try to recap what was said, and this I'm looking at maybe 2 or 3 months ago in this video, but how the moon matrix program is affecting basically who, not necessarily you fall in love with, although in some cases it does, but it brings you into partnership with people who are absolutely not your divine partner. And the result of creation of another life force through that original matching is what continues to perpetuate maybe this matrix of control here on the planet, and all of these humans that in some cases, like you said earlier, were non-player characters. And it's because we've been kind of duped in a way to have feelings or to fall in love with people who otherwise we would never had if the moon wasn't affecting our ability to focus or to perceive the energies of these individuals around us.
I can absolutely agree to that. And I can also add to it that a lot of women nowadays are suffering from something called premenstrual dysphoria disorder. And I feel that the moon and the menstrual cycle plays such a huge role in that it actually keeps them from being with divine partners, because it's creating such severe menstrual symptoms in them that they literally are having psychosis and like severe suicidal, like depressive thoughts every time that their cycle aligns to the full moon. It literally almost takes them to the edge every time. So it's definitely controlling us in a lot of different subconscious ways. It's interesting.
Yeah, and just having the conversation, and even though in some cases it feels like we're kind of grasping at straws to comprehend some of these topics, I find the conversations are beneficial because I just expressed something here from memory, and you're like, oh yeah, it made me think of that. And as you're saying that, somebody listening to the show is like, oh yeah, and we can add to the conversation here, and we're kind of putting all the puzzles, the pieces of the puzzle together. Because I fundamentally believe that right now, the matrix that we live in is somewhat either breaking down naturally or is somewhat being taken down, or maybe a combination of both. And as that's happening, humans are getting more and more ability to download and to remember a lot of these concepts of who we are and what we can actually do as co-creators. So to me, these conversations are absolutely gold. We might not get it right all the time, maybe even some of the time, but the fact that we're trying and that we're trying to pull this information in, to me is absolutely valuable. So I want to thank you, Indigo, for having this conversation with me and of course with the audience here. So thank you to the audience as well for being here and participating in this show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Always. All right. What else do I have to share? Was that it for today on this particular?
It's interesting though. I have another thought.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Wait, I had this one here too. Let me just show it to you. We had. Where'd it go? Why is it still on this one? Oh wait. No, I have to remove that one. Hold on for a second. You sent me a diagram too of the tree of life over the body.
Oh yes.
The plasma protection. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that here or on the after show with the blood types?
We could do it. We can do it on the after show.
Okay.
I was just gonna kind of go into memory a little bit because I feel too with you just said to remember, how things were and helping collective humanity wake up to remember. I feel that our memory is under a constant state of attack, that like the actual true hot commodities on the planet are memory and data. That these are the two things that are the most fought over. They want us to forget. Yeah. Like they want us to forget everything. And like even under this like 5G wave of technological advancement, like this is highly affecting our memory, our long-term memory, our short-term memory, our episodic memory. There's all different types of ways that we remember things, but it's because they want us to forget. And so it's that I think that's part of the warfare is on consciousness, but it's also on memory. They don't want you to take your memory into your reincarnation.
All right. Yeah, because you're disempowered and they have an easier or the ability to manipulate and control you much easier. And when you come here and you're wiped and you don't know who the bad guys are.
Yeah.
But I think that is the challenge that a lot of us souls that came in wanted to expressly experience. And so in some cases you're like, oh, they're doing it too. I'm like, well, no, we probably did it to ourselves. I mean, we wanted to experience this. And for some people, those whole contract might be to experience it and to experience pain, fear, and all that stuff, because that's part of what they're experiencing at the level of incarnation they're at. And for some other souls, it's about waking up from that, having the knowledge that they came in here maybe with the card deck stacked against them, and to see if they could overcome the challenge of figuring that out. So there's so many beautiful things here happening at once, and it's not always as clear as the good guys and the bad guys. We really have to get into the nuances when we have these conversation. There's a comment on the screen. Let me try to bring it back up here because I think maybe you can speak to this. Indigo and folks, yeah, we'll spend a few more minutes here. If you guys have questions for Indigo, please do bring them up and please put them in the high caps. It's a little bit easier for me to grab them from the buffer here and also to share them with the audience on the main screen. So Atienne2112 is asking, I always wondered about Sainte-Anne-de-Beaupré, a big cathedral that is known for its miracles, but was built in a pretty small village, like out of nowhere. Is there a reason for this location? So maybe you're aware of this particular cathedral, Indigo, but if not, speak to the context or the I guess the philosophy here of people building these worship sites on these very energetic ley lines, and possibly why they would do that and why it appears to be a coordinated effort around the planet.
Yes, I'm not familiar with that specific location, and it's interesting because when you do start opening up this conversation, you get so many ideas. Well, what about this location? What about this location? Right. I mean, we could be grid working for days because there's just so much simultaneous, parallel, overlapping, running grids, different grids, simultaneous grids, some according to stargates, some according to lunar gates, some according to pentagram designs and dodecahedron designs, which is actually what the Earth is fundamentally built upon, is the dodecahedron. But essentially, I guess an example would kind of be, I guess there are villages like in Africa where so smaller villages, like typically I think subconsciously according to the energy vortex that they're working with, that they would actually build like the hut in the center where like the chief would sit, and then they would create a symmetry of the same house designs around it. And that the idea is that everybody lived in the same symmetry, and then they would come into the center, and then this is where would be like their altar, this would be their ritual, and this is where they would call upon for their ancestors. And that these altars are electrical energy fields, and that it's their way of kind of utilizing the harmony of the vortex site in accordance to the geometry and the landmass. So, I mean, a lot of times that's, I think if you were to look at the entirety of the village, like look at it from a top down perspective, you could actually begin to see the fundamental geometry that they're working with, because they're just naturally and coherently going to express that in the way that they build their village.
And it's fascinating to even animals, if you find out and you follow the trails that they take in the wilderness, in a lot of instances, you'll find out that they're walking on very energetic lines and they're actually following the energy in the ground. They haven't chosen that trail willy-nilly. And we're just finding that now that we have some of the equipment to test this stuff. So,
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I don't even think they actually have like scientific explanation to why birds fly the same route every year, or why the
Mhm.
monarch butterflies know how to get to, the route that they take. I mean, I don't even think they can actually scientifically yet completely explain photosynthesis and how a
Mhm.
plant actually absorbs the sun as food. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting. We know these things exist and how they're happening, but it's like, how do they fundamentally, like, do we have like a quantum like explanation of how this is actually working? Like, it's just
Yeah, and don't ask that if you're in high school right now. Please don't ask this question to your teacher because you're gonna get severely reprimanded for getting away from the curriculum because they don't know and they don't want to tell you they don't know. I tell that to my kids all the time because they ask me a lot of good questions and they listen to the show. And sometimes I tell them, maybe, maybe don't bring that up in the classroom. They're not ready for these conversations. In the class, of course, in the schoolyard with your kids, you can maybe bring this up and see what other kids are thinking about because kids are downloading a lot of crazy stuff these days.
Yeah, yeah. My
But in the,
kids too. The other day they're
yeah,
like, "Mom, what's the fifth dimension?" I mean, they were like all about like wanting to really understand what it is. I'm like,
yeah,
wow, this is interesting. So,
yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Libby, I'm A negative, RH negative. Talk about me when you leave here. Okay, I guess you can't come on the after show or since you're running late for something else. But yeah, Libby, actually, as I read your comment, I have to say, send me a message. Send me a message either on, I think you're on my Facebook or on my Twitter or even through Patreon, whatever. Send me a private message. I have an idea for you, and it just came into mind as you wrote that message. So send me a quick message, and I'll share my ideas with you privately before. Don't want to put you on the spot here publicly. So I have an idea. So, anyways, I look forward to that. So let's get into. Is there anything else here you want to get into, Indigo, before we switch over to the other side?
I think we've kind of got through most of it, honestly.
Okay,
I think we did pretty good.
very good. So let me bring up your. Wait a second. You had another graph here. No, that's good. You did this one. Okay,
I,
yeah.
w- I was going to explain the the visual that I have, that's attuning to gold with plasma protection, the stellar stargate activation visualization. It's a
Right.
mouthful.
Yes. Let me see if I can bring that back on the screen so people can at least see that and maybe get cued from it. And folks, of course, I do some of my shows on Patreon simply because YouTube will censor it anyways and we can't put it here. But in other cases, just like this one here, I do extra added value shows for the Patreon members who support me as a big thank you for them supporting me. And what I usually try to do later on, maybe depending on the video and the timing here, maybe a couple of weeks later or a month later, I'll take snippets of those videos that are not considered to be censorship prone, and I'll bring them back down here on YouTube for you guys to see. So I just wanted to explain that for you.
I was trying to look on the blood type graph that we have, that's a breakdown by Alex Collier that my good friend Owen Glendower kind of put together for me. So I just want to thank him if he's watching. But it doesn't have anything on RH negative. So I was trying to look at that for that question for her, but
I thought it did. Yeah. If you look at the first 3, you have A negative, B negative, AB negative.
Okay, but RH itself is not its own blood type? Or is it just all negatives are RH negative?
The antigen is RH, so rhesus antigen. So if you're positive, you're RH positive. If you're negative, you're RH negative.
Okay.
As I understand it, at least.
So would she be like A, B, or AB negative? Right. Or O negative?
Yeah, so she, I believe she said she's A negative. Let me go back up to her. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, I am A negative. RH.
A negative? Okay.
Yeah, so she's A negative. Yeah.
So this says 6% of the world population, and you would be connected to Antares, Altair, Sagittarius, Scorpius, Ursa Major, and Lyra.
I get the Lyra for her quite a bit, and she's been in a lot of our shows, Libby, where Solretta, who does psychic readings and also basically soul graphic designs, and she gets into maybe starseed origins as well in some of her readings, and she was pulling quite a bit from Libby in our show maybe a month or 2 ago. So yeah, that's fascinating. We should probably do a show with you and Solretta, and maybe do some of these readings, because I know you also do these readings, and you do starseed collective readings also. Let me bring that up here so people can where did I put that? Here you go. Share screen. Yeah, so folks, if you want to book a reading with IndigoAngel, Indigo, were you able to set up that discount for the
I did. Okay. So it's all one word, lowercase, Beyond Mystic at the checkout.
Very
on
good.
J-Seal removal session.
On the J-Seal removals. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so, folks, if you want to support IndigoAngel, you can do so at IndigoAngel222.com. Let me bring that back up onto the main chat so you guys can click on that. And also, please remember to go subscribe to her YouTube channel, which is IndigoAngel on YouTube. This one here. And let me bring that one back on the chat as well. There you go, folks. Well, I thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Polly P, for reminding everyone to smash the likes, share, and subscribe. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being part of this experiment here today and being part of this conversation. We're all trying to move the needle forward in our understandings and understandings, and that's what this show is all about. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so much, Indigo, for being here today.
Thank you.
I guess we'll see you soon, and have a great day.